Your roadmap to the latest in auto, welcome to Highway Herald. Today we're diving into a seismic shift in global trade. When Trump dropped steep tariffs on European cars, wine, and aerospace parts, it sent shockwaves across markets. France, under Macron, didn't flinch. They fired back. Now Europe is mobilizing with bold retaliation. This isn't just a trade spat. It's a full-blown transformation that could reshape the global auto industry, tech supply chains, and the balance of economic power. Let's break it down. Tariff tremors. Trump's super-tariff sends global markets into a tailspin. In mid-May, the US unleashed what's now being dubbed a super-tariff, targeting the heart of Europe's high-value exports. French vehicles, iconic wines, gourmet cheeses, even aerospace parts were suddenly hit with triple-digit levies. Markets didn't take kindly. France's CAC 40 dropped about 3%, and industry giants like Renault, Stellantis, and Airbus watched their shares slide. Macron didn't mince words. At an emergency Brussels summit, he warned that Europe's bodies and engines were on the line. This wasn't just economic banter. It was a direct response to Washington's economic aggression. The tariff announcement didn't just damage stocks. It disrupted forecasts, currency markets, and investor confidence. The euro wobbled while rumors of ECB intervention circulated. Across the board, companies from Detroit to Dusseldorf scrambled to reassess their pricing, supply routes, and contingency plans. Automakers cautioned that US car buyers could see prices climb as parts and components grow costlier to source. The specter of a full-blown trade war became alarmingly real. And no one moved faster than France, turning market panic into a mission for sovereignty. France in the driver's seat, a bold push for economic sovereignty. Macron wasn't about to wait for Brussels bureaucracy. France immediately coordinated with Germany, Italy, and the Netherlands to launch a coordinated strike, drafting the framework for the European Crisis Tariff Network. For the first time, member nations could apply mirror tariffs to incoming US goods. It was a diplomatic U-turn from the EU's usual wait and negotiate approach. Macron called it sovereignty through strength. Why France? Because its economy leans heavily on sectors directly in the US crosshairs. Think Airbus planes, Renault and Peugeot vehicles, and those globally coveted wines and cheeses. If Washington was aiming to kneecap Europe, it was Paris feeling the first blows. In response, the European Commission stepped in with backing. Brussels approved a provisional list of retaliatory tariffs targeting 95 billion euros in American exports. Auto parts, aviation components, spirits, the works. They also unveiled a 5 billion euros financial backstop to shield EU exporters, particularly small and mid-sized French producers from the initial shocks. The signal was loud and clear. Europe will respond with might, but not without strategy. But Europe isn't just playing defense. It's redesigning the trade map altogether. Before we delve deeper, we'd appreciate it if you could subscribe to Highway Herald. Your support fuels our passion to create more auto industry deep dives and real-time trade analysis. Beyond the Atlantic, Europe's strategic turn to Asia and the CPTPP. France and the EU weren't satisfied with simply returning fire. They set out to redraw the trade landscape altogether. Macron's trade envoys wasted no time, jetting off to Tokyo and Seoul to pitch an ambitious plan. A resilient tri-continental supply chain linking Europe, Japan, and South Korea. The vision? A chip-to-vehicle corridor designed to bypass US tariff bottlenecks and reinforce economic autonomy. Simultaneously, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced the EU's intent to strengthen ties with the CPTPP, a major Asia-Pacific trade bloc. With backing from Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and Germany's Chancellor Merz, the EU floated the idea of a new World Trade Club, one that could collaborate with or even sidestep the traditional WTO framework. This wasn't just about spreading risk. It was about gaining leverage. The EU sent a clear message to Washington. We have alternatives. If a CPTPP EU partnership takes form, it wouldn't just be a defensive strategy. It would represent nearly 30% of global GDP. That's not pushback. That's a new power center in global trade. And as trade realignment unfolds, it's having ripple effects across NATO, defense spending, and global security strategies. Global strategy rewired, NATO shifts, China links, and defense dynamics. The tariff clash has spilled far beyond ports and product codes. It's now reshaping defense alliances and global power dynamics. Under Macron's leadership, France has boosted defense spending beyond 2.2% of GDP, aiming for 2.5% by 2026 to meet NATO targets. But here's the twist. Instead of funneling contracts to traditional US defense firms, France is investing heavily in its own industrial champions like Airbus and Dassault, subtly shifting influence within the alliance. Meanwhile, Paris is deepening ties with China, not as a full pivot, but as an economic counterweight. Joint ventures in nuclear power, aerospace tech, and maritime security in the Red Sea reflect a strategic diversification. The EU is signaling, while transatlantic ties matter, they are no longer sacrosanct. Tensions remain. Germany urges quick reconciliation with the US to protect its export-driven economy, even as it cautiously supports moves that enhance European self-reliance. Christine Lagarde and the ECB are juggling financial stability with industrial cushioning, while European Greens view the moment as a green acceleration, where trade shocks become clean tech catalysts. And all this strategic movement is happening alongside economic consequences that Europe can no longer ignore. The economic jolt, slowed growth, fiscal strain, and resilient rebuilding. France's economy is feeling the full throttle of the trade war's impact. The government slashed its 2025 growth forecast from 4.8% to 2.9%, citing export slowdowns and wavering consumer confidence. That revision sent credit rating agencies on high alert, keeping a close eye on France's rising debt-to-GDP ratio and fiscal resilience. In response, Paris launched the Industrial Resilience Fund, a robust initiative combining public investment, European Investment Bank capital, and pension assets. The fund offers zero-interest loans aimed at bolstering key industries like green transport, advanced battery manufacturing, and high-efficiency production. While it mirrors the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act in ambition, France's version leans more on coordinated governance and long-term sustainability. In agriculture, France is striking back with WTO-compliant health shield standards on U.S. goods like almonds, potatoes, and corn, focusing on pesticide levels, fat content, and emissions rather than tariffs. Despite internal friction over tourism and supply chains, EU nations stayed unified. France secured support from southern allies through energy-sharing guarantees and logistics protection, showcasing rare cohesion in Europe's stance against U.S. pressure. With all fronts active, trade, security, and economics, France now finds itself steering Europe into a decisive future. Final lap, France charts a new road for Europe. Macron's aggressive counter to Trump's super-tariffs has kicked Europe's trade strategy into overdrive. France didn't just defend its domestic industries, it redefined the EU's position on the global stage. From retaliatory tariffs to outreach with the CPTPP and joint tech ventures in Asia, Europe has moved beyond reaction. It's now authoring the next chapter of global trade, with a sharper focus on autonomy, resilience, and industrial strategy. But this shift isn't without speed bumps. The economic toll is mounting, with slowing growth, rising debt, and diplomatic strain with the U.S. still lingering. Yet within the chaos lies opportunity, a more diversified trade network, reinforced industrial policies, and a greater voice in shaping future trade standards. What's your take? Is France's bold move bolstering or burdening the EU? How should U.S. automakers react to Asia-Europe realignments? Could this trade standoff fast-track EV leadership in Europe? Share your insights in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Highway Herald for your go-to updates on the evolving auto tech landscape. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Feel free to click on the videos on screen. We've got more high-octane insights coming your way.